What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Cricket Magic 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G. Now, as always, if you end up wanting to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So with the Cricket Magic 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz IPS LCD display with a 720p resolution, a PPI of 286, and a 20:9 aspect ratio. With the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting a 6.6-inch 120Hz PLS LCD display. This phone has a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 400, and a 20:9 aspect ratio as well. So in general, the phones are pretty similar, but the main difference here is that with the A23, with the 1080p resolution versus, again, only 720p with the Cricket Magic 5G, the A23 does have significantly better image quality. So if you're doing stuff like watching videos, for example, where you want the image to look a bit nicer, the A23 will give you a much better experience. But that being said, despite this, the Cricket Magic 5G for what it is really not bad either. So if you're really using your phone for more basic activities and maybe you still want to watch the occasional video every now and then, it still will at least get the job done. But if you're really doing a lot of that stuff, the A23 5G will have an advantage. Now for storage, both phones have 64GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so no difference here, but keep in mind, 64GB at this point in 2023 is not the best, but at the same time, it's really not terrible either, so whether or not it's actually going to be enough definitely depends on what you're doing. On one hand, if you're more of an average light user, I do think it will be at least okay, but if you are more of a heavy user and you're someone who typically has a lot of apps, then you might want to go for something that has more storage than these. But also keep in mind, again, both phones do support microSD card expansion, so if you want to offload stuff like photos and videos, that will make a difference. Now for security features, both phones have Face Unlock, and they do have fingerprint scanners as well. With the Cricket Magic 5G, it's right here on the back, and with the Samsung Galaxy A23, it's on the power key. But starting with the Cricket Magic 5G, let's try them out. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So the Cricket has that cool animation. And now for the A23. There we go, one more time. And there we go. So as you can see, both fingerprint scanners worked real well. No issues at all. I would say the A23 is a bit more snappy, but that's really just due to the animation. And in general, when you're actually using the phones, you're probably not going to see a huge difference. And again, remember, both phones have Face Unlock too, so if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now for the camera setups here. Up front, both phones have water drop notches for the selfie cameras. With the Cricket Magic 5G, we're getting 5 megapixels, and with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting 8. Then on the back, the Magic 5G has a kind of bare setup with a 13 megapixel main camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. And with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting a full quad camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So you can probably tell just by the features that the A23 does have a huge advantage here, having both a macro camera and an ultra wide camera, and a significantly higher megapixel main camera as well. That being said though, one advantage the Cricket has is that with this phone, when it comes to video, we can record up to 2K in both the rear and front cameras, whereas with the A23 5G, this phone does max out at 1080p. Now, to be fair, when it comes to phones like these, people are probably not going to be recording lots of really high resolution videos anyway, but at the same time, if you do want to record in a slightly higher resolution, the Cricket Magic 5G can at least do that. But when it comes to pretty much everything else, features, photo quality, all that, the camera we're getting with the A23 5G is significantly better. That being said though, to be fair, the Cricket Magic 5G does still at least take decent photos. So if you're not really that interested in taking all kinds of photos all the time, but you still want to take a nice photo every now and then, the camera we're getting here will at least get the job done. Now to give you an idea of what these cameras can do, first, here's some pictures taken with the Cricket Magic 5G. So again, definitely not terrible quality, and honestly, for more light users, this is probably all you're gonna need, because if you're not really taking all kinds of pictures, of course, you don't really need a ton of features or a super high quality camera. You really just need something that can take a presentable photo, and that's pretty much it. And with the Cricket Magic 5G, it does just this. On one hand, really nothing more than that, but on the other hand, nothing less either. So if you are just looking for a decent, usable camera, and otherwise you don't really care, the Cricket Magic 5G will at least be okay. And then here's some pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, and you can probably tell the Samsung does have significantly better photo quality. So if you are looking for something that on one hand is a bit more affordable, but on the other hand, still does have a really high quality camera and plenty of features too, then the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G will be a great choice. Now for the RAM and processor, with the Cricket Magic 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. With the A23 5G, we're getting 4GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 695 5G processor. Now, honestly, in general, when it comes to overall performance, on one hand, in theory, the A23 5G should be a little bit faster, but really, in my experience, granted, I have used the A23 5G for a bit longer than the Cricket Magic 5G, considering I got this phone like yesterday, but still in my experience, the performance here is pretty similar. So honestly, I probably wouldn't really make performance alone really a deciding factor between the two, because in general, while one may technically be slightly faster than the other, they're really going to be around the same level. That being said though, both phones are decently fast for more basic daily activities, and even if you're going to be on your phone quite a bit doing stuff like watching videos, browsing the web, using social media, and even some light mobile gaming, for that kind of activity, I don't think either of these phones are really going to have a problem. Sure, they're not going to be nearly as fast as a much higher end device, but at the same time, for most people, they will be plenty fast enough for whatever you need to do. Now I ran a benchmark test on each phone here using Geekbench 6, and here are the results I got. So again, as you can see here, there's really not a significant difference. On one hand, the Cricket Magic 5G has an ever so slightly higher multi-core score, whereas with the A23 5G, the single core score is a bit higher, but honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. And again, in my experience, the performance between these phones is pretty similar. Now for the batteries, with the Cricket Magic 5G, we're getting a 4000 mAh battery, and I couldn't find any information about fast charging, but I'm assuming it's going to be around 10 because I can't imagine a phone in 2023 that has lower than that, but at the same time, when fast charging isn't listed, it's probably not going to be very good. In my experience, the charging speed is okay, but definitely nothing great. And then with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, we're getting a 5000 mAh battery. This supports 25 watt fast charging. So clearly here between the two, the A23 does have a huge advantage. First of all, having a much larger battery, and second of all, that 25 watt fast charging will make a difference. So if the battery is important to you, definitely keep this in mind. But also keep in mind with the A23 5G, to actually use the 25 watt fast charging, you will need a 25 watt charger, which this phone does not come with. In fact, it doesn't even have a wall adapter, so you will have to get your own. Now for the software, both phones currently have Android 13, but with the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G, I am expecting this phone to get an update to Android 14 pretty soon. I mean, we're in October, so pretty much the end of 2023, and Android 14 is, I guess, technically out now, and Samsungs do have really good software support. So yeah, this phone will be getting Android 14, as well as Android 15 and 16 down the road. Whereas with the Cricket Magic 5G, if this phone ever gets Android 14, I would be pretty surprised. So definitely keep this in mind. On one hand, with Android 13, it's not outdated by any means, but if you really want the latest software, the Samsung will have an advantage. In addition to this, also keep in mind, both phones do have NFC, so if you like to use tap and pay, you can use that with either phone here, no problem. But in conclusion, which of these phones is better? Now, honestly, it's pretty clear here that between the two, the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G has definitely the most advantages. The only real advantage the Cricket Magic 5G has is, first of all, again, it can record 2K videos, which is kind of subjective because I don't know about you, but unless I'm specifically making a demonstration for this channel, I've never actually gone out of my way to record a 2K video. I usually just jump right to 4K or stick with 1080p. So it's debatable whether or not that's really useful. And then in addition to this, the Cricket Magic 5G is such a cheap phone. I mean, at full price, it's going for around $139, whereas with the A23 5G, keep in mind you're most likely not going to be paying full price for it, but when it was originally released, it went for around $300, so clearly in comparison, the A23 5G is a bit higher end. But one thing to keep in mind here is that this phone has been out for about a year now, and at this point, especially with Cricket, you can find some really good deals for it. So if you can get this phone for like maybe $150 or even less, then I would definitely choose it over the Cricket Magic 5G. That being said though, if you maybe can't find a deal for it and you're really just looking for more of a low-end, affordable 5G phone for more basic activities, then yeah, in that case, the Cricket Magic 5G will still get the job done, but honestly, I feel like at this point in 2023, it's really unlikely that you won't find any kind of deal for the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G. I mean, even if you get one refurbished or something, it is going for a pretty affordable price, so in general, between the two, I would definitely say the A23 5G is all around a better choice. But this concludes my comparison between the Cricket Magic 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about either phone individually, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about them, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Khalipa's Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.